สวัสดีค่ะท่านผู้ชมก็ห่างหายกันไปนานพอสมควรนะคะเพราะว่าก็หลายอย่างนะคะสถานการณ์ก็เปลี่ยนไปแม้ว่าดูเหมือนว่าเราอาจจะยังมีจำนวนผู้ติดเชื้อค่อนข้างสูงนะคะแต่ว่าเชื้อโอไมครอนเนี่ยก็ดูเหมือนว่าจะไม่ได้รุนแรงมากมายประกอบกับพวกเราเองก็ได้รับวัคซีนกันเป็นส่วนใหญ่นะคะในช่วง2 ปีที่ผ่านมาก็มีความท้าทายเยอะมากนะคะในทุกมิติเลยทั้งในแง่ของเศรษฐกิจสังคมการเมืองแล้วตอนนี้ก็มีเรื่องของ geopolitics คือความขัดแย้งระหว่างประเทศนะคะจากเรื่องการค้าจนปัจจุบันในขณะที่เราบันทึกเทปอยู่นี้นะคะก็ยังมีเรื่องของรัสเซียยูเครนเข้ามาอีกนะคะต้องจับตาดูเพราะฉะนั้นความท้าทายเหล่านี้มันก็ยิ่งทำให้ปัญหาและความท้าทายเดิมเนี่ยมันก็ดูจะรุนแรงมากขึ้นซึ่งในแวดวงนักกฎหมายเองก็คงเชื่อว่า2 ปีที่ผ่านมาก็คงจะมีความเปลี่ยนแปลงเยอะมีปัญหาเกิดขึ้นเยอะมีเรื่องใหม่ๆเกิดขึ้นเยอะนะคะความท้าทายเช่นเดียวกันนะคะกับแวดวงของธุรกิจlaw firm เองนะคะคณะนิติศาสตร์เองจะต้องปรับตัวยังไง lawyer ใน law firm จะต้องปรับตัวยังไงรวมทั้งจะเตรียมตัวอย่างไรสำหรับทศวรรษหน้าซึ่งไม่ใช่เรื่องง่ายแน่นอนค่ะเพราะว่าปกติในบริษัทภาคธุรกิจเองเนี่ยตอนนี้ทำแผน5 ปีนี่ไม่มีใครทำได้แล้วนะคะเพราะว่ามันเปลี่ยนแปลงไปตลอดเวลาแต่แน่นอนว่าเราเองก็จะต้อง predict นะคะก็คือคาดการณ์ว่าจะเกิดอะไรขึ้นซึ่งการเตรียมตัวพร้อมรับการเปลี่ยนแปลงเนี่ยมันจะช่วยทำให้แน่นอนปัญหามันอาจจะยังอยู่นะคะแต่ว่ามันจะช่วยทำให้พอเราคาดการณ์แล้วก็ประเมินแล้วก็เตรียมตัวรับเนี่ยมันก็อาจจะทำให้จากเรื่องยากเป็นเรื่องง่ายขึ้นทำให้เรื่องหนักเป็นเรื่องเบานะคะค่ะก็หัวข้อของเรานะคะซึ่งจะแบ่งออกเป็น2 ตอนนะคะในเอพิโซด49เนี่ยเราตั้งชื่อว่า Law Schools Law Firms and Lawyers for the Next Decade นะคะแปลเป็นไทยก็คือคณะนิติศาสตร์สำนักงานกฎหมายนะคะแล้วก็นักกฎหมายสำหรับทศวรรษหน้าคือ10 ปีข้างหน้าจะเป็นอย่างไรนะคะก็หวังว่าพวกเราจะสามารถทำแผนสำหรับตัวเองสำหรับคณะนิติศาสตร์สำหรับ law firm แล้วก็สำหรับตัวนักกฎหมายเองได้ใน10 ปีข้างหน้าซึ่งในตอน49/1นะคะเราก็จะมาพูดคุยกับคุณสกอตต์Edelman นะคะซึ่งปัจจุบันก็เป็นแชร์แมนของ Milbank LLP นะคะ Milbank LLP เนี่ยก่อตั้งมา155 ปีแล้วนะคะจะสังเกตได้ว่า law firm ขนาดใหญ่หรือว่า law firm ที่มีชื่อเสียงที่เป็น global firm ของอเมริกาของอังกฤษเนี่ยก่อตั้งมายาวนานนะคะถ้าเปรียบเทียบกันมหาลัยที่เก่าแก่ที่สุดของประเทศไทยก็อาจจะยังอายุน้อยกว่า Milbank เลยนะคะ155 ปีคุณสกอตต์เองเนี่ยก็เป็น litigator นะคะก็คือเป็นทนายว่าความด้วยแล้วก็ยัง active ในการทำงานนะคะก็รับ2 บทบาทแล้วก็เป็นแชร์แมนของ Milbank มาเป็นเวลา10 ปีแน่นอนว่าก็จะต้องได้เห็นทั้งอดีต10 ปีได้เห็นช่วงความท้าทายหรือว่าความเปลี่ยนแปลงในช่วง2 ปีนี้และก็คงจะต้องเตรียมการหรือว่าเตรียมตัววางแผนสำหรับ law firm แล้วก็ lawyer ในทศวรรษข้างหน้านะคะขอประวัติย่อๆของคุณสกอตต์Edelman นะคะก็แน่นอนว่าอยู่ law firm ซึ่งมีเบสอยู่ที่นิวยอร์กนะคะเป็น top litigator แล้วก็ corporate advisor นะคะในAmerican Lawyer เองเนี่ยก็ได้มีข้อความที่โค้ดว่านี่คือ litigator of the week นะคะถือว่าเป็นlitigator แห่งสัปดาห์นะคะจากการที่ไปชนะ DOJ คือ Department of Justice นะคะซึ่งเท่ากับกระทรวงยุติธรรมของประเทศไทยนี่แหละในเคสของ Broadcast Music Inc. นะคะ BMI ซึ่งเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของ licensing คิดว่า lawyer ในสายของ intellectual property นะคะทรัพย์สินทางปัญญาคงน่าจะสนใจว่าเคสนี้คืออะไรก็ไปติดตามได้นะคะอันนี้ก็มูลค่า$2 billion เลยทีเดียวนะคะนอกจากนั้นนะคะ Chamber ซึ่งเป็น publisher ที่มีการจัด ranking ตัวบุคคลจัด ranking law firm ก็เป็นที่ ยอมรับแล้วก็นับถือทั่วโลกเลยนะคะChambers เองเนี่ยก็มีข้อความนะคะซึ่งปกติข้อความก็มาจากการอินเทอร์วิวการสัมภาษณ์ลูกความนะคะ Chambers โค้ดข้อความว่าคุณสกอตนี่คือ phenomenal attorney whose courtroom style is nothing short of perfection นะคะก็ถือว่าเป็นทนายความที่มหัศจรรย์แล้วก็ courtroom style นะคะใครที่ชอบดูภาพยนตร์คอร์ดรูมดราม่านะคะซึ่งสนุกสนานมากของอเมริกันเนี่ยคงอาจจะนึกภาพออกบอกว่า it's nothing short of perfection นะคะหาจุดบกพร่องไม่เจอเลยแล้วก็เป็นน่าจะเป็น lawyer คนเดียวของนิวยอร์กที่ได้รับการ ranking เป็น leading lawyer ในทุกๆ area นะคะ securities litigation ซึ่งอันนี้ก็คือเป็นคดีความที่เกี่ยวข้องกับหลักทรัพย์นะคะgeneral commercial litigation ก็เป็นคดีความ commercial ทางธุรกิจทั่วไปและ white collar crime นะคะซึ่งเป็นอาชญากรรมคอปกเสื้อขาวนะคะก็เรียกว่าเป็นอาชญากรรมที่เกี่ยวข้องกับด้านเศรษฐกิจหรือว่าเกี่ยวข้องกับบุคคลที่น่าจะถือว่าเป็นผู้บริหารระดับสูงแล้วก็ government investigation นะคะก็เรื่องของการตรวจสอบจากภาครัฐนะคะค่ะก็ในส่วนของประวัติการศึกษานะคะก็จบ college จากเยลนะคะซึ่งก็ได้รับเกียรตินิยมด้วยนะคะทางด้านเศรษฐศาสตร์แล้วก็จบปริญญาทางด้านกฎหมายนะคะ JD จาก Harvard Law School นะคะค่ะก็มาพบแขกรับเชิญของรายการของเราเลยค่ะคุณสกอตต์Edelman นะคะ Chairman ของ Milbank LLP ค่ะ
Start with the first question. 2 years after the start of COVID-19, how is the legal industry? Are there a lot of changes? And anything you believe it will never be the same from before?
Well, let me take you back to when COVID started and how we reacted and how it's been different from what we anticipated. So when the COVID crisis started, it happened very fast. We went from living normally to going into lockdown within the course of about a week. And I remember when the situation became clear to me, the first thing we did as a firm was on a Monday, we informed all of our lawyers that on Tuesday and Wednesday, we were going to split the firm. Half the firm would come in to the office on Tuesday, half the firm would come in on Wednesday. And everybody's job on the day they were not in the office was to make sure that they had a working computer, a working printer, that they could function at home or wherever they were working. And I just threw in working video camera on their computer. Now at the time, I had never used video chat. I didn't know what Zoom was, but I thought it was a good thing to throw in. Within 3 days of that, we were shut down because we had a bunch of COVID cases in the office. And, I and others at the firm were really panicked about what it meant for our business. We thought it was going to shut us down. It didn't. We were able to function because of technology and because of the energy and perseverance and dedication to clients of our lawyers. And we were fully functioning right away. Really, now it seems obvious. Back then, it was pretty miraculous. On the business side of things, at the beginning of COVID, the market shut down. But we have a very, very good restructuring practice, and the restructuring practice was very busy and kept a lot of the firm busy. 2 years later, we've just been through two of the busiest years that the firm ever had, and the whole law firm industry has been super busy. What do I think has changed permanently? There's going to have to be more flexibility for lawyers in terms of where they work. People have proven that you don't need to be in the office to get your work done. And I think the question that is still unresolved is, what does that mean for people coming to the office and the value of physical proximity? At Milbank, we believe that physical proximity is still really important. So we've adopted a 3-day-a-week work schedule, but we are trying to insist that everybody is in the office 3 days a week and that they make the most of their time together. So we're not looking for people just to come into the office, go to their office, shut the door, and do their work. In a period where you're going to be in the office less, it's all the more important that on the days when you're in the office, you're taking advantage of that unique opportunity for physical connection that comes from being together. And we believe that there are aspects of our culture, and particularly the training of younger lawyers, that can only occur by being together. So I think when the biggest thing that's changed to me is, one, we have increased flexibility, which is good for everybody. But two, figuring out how to reconcile that increased flexibility with making sure that all of our lawyers are together enough that we get the benefits that creates for our culture, and also making sure that we're training our younger lawyers, which doesn't happen the same way over a Zoom that it happens by being in an office together.
Yeah. And since Milbank is an international law firm with, I guess, 12 offices worldwide, would you say that the same applies to all offices?
Yes. Now, I think it's another challenge is part of what makes us effective is that lawyers from different offices are able to work together on matters. So one of the reasons people come to a firm like Milbank is that we can deal with the legal issues in Latin America and in Asia at the same time. We can deal with a litigation issue as well as a corporate issue on the same deal. So we have lawyers with different specialties and different knowledge of different countries and legal regimes that can work together and solve complex problems that a smaller law firm that just focuses on one type of work or type of issue or country can't handle. We invest a lot in creating opportunities for our lawyers to get to know each other and to work together. Things like we have a program called Milbank at Harvard, where we bring all of our associates for an executive education program at Harvard 3 times over the course of their career. One of the benefits of that is they get to know each other, and they get to know the New York lawyers get to know the Singapore lawyers, the Seoul, Korea lawyers get to know the German lawyers. That's another thing that we've missed that we're trying to bring back as quickly as we can. But I would say yes, across all of our offices, we're trying to get people back in the office. Now, one challenge we've had is Hong Kong, where the travel restrictions have been so significant that we haven't been able to get together with some of our Hong Kong lawyers. So I think these things I'm hoping will work themselves out over time. But yes, across the firm, our view is that physical proximity matters, and we're trying to get the right balance between flexibility and being together.
I have two follow-up questions, and we'll talk later on the very impressive program Milbank at Harvard. People talk a lot about the Great Resignation. Do you see that happening, or it has happened for the law firms? People be more on freelance.
Yeah. So we like other law firms had unprecedented levels of associates leaving the firm in 2021. We spent a lot of time thinking about why that is, and there are a number of reasons. First, every year you have a certain amount of attrition. In 2020, we had a much lower level of attrition because 2020 wasn't a good year for people to go and get a new job. There was a lot of uncertainty, and so a lot of people, I think, who were thinking about making a switch or had enough of being at a law firm, they put it off longer. 2021 was a time when you had, I would say like a double year of attrition. Also, I think people did a lot of thinking during the pandemic. I think that's a one-time event where there was change. People were moving. People were changing their family circumstances. People were discovering new things about what they wanted in life. And so we had a bunch of people who just said, I don't want to work in law, or I don't want to work in a law firm, or I don't want to work in a big city, and made changes. And then the third thing we saw was law firms were so busy that they were competing with one another for talent. And so we were hiring lots of people from other law firms, and on occasion, law firms were successful in stealing some of our people away. I mean, we hired a lot more from other firms than were hired from us, but part of the attrition was a bit of a game of musical chairs. We are seeing a decrease this year in the level of attrition. So, I think we're back to more normal numbers, and I'm hopeful that was a one-time shock to the system.
I do agree with you that from my own experience and observation, I think new way of work from home, it's the junior lawyers that probably got affected the most with the lack of proper training, and normally like we see eye to eyes. But to be specific on, in fact, your expertise, do you see a lot of disadvantage in the litigation and arbitration that you won't be sometimes able to be in or present in persons because people start talking about the e-meetings and things like that?
So, I've done a bunch of depositions and oral arguments via video. I think it's pretty good. And when I compare the savings of not having to fly across the country and spend 2 days going to a court conference or a deposition against what we're able to accomplish, I think it's generally pretty good. I think you lose a little bit in a deposition compared to if it were live, but just a little bit. I had one trial during the pandemic that was live. And it was in a courtroom that was set up to protect the witness and the lawyers from COVID. So it had big plexiglass screens and kind of an awkward setting that made it difficult to see the witness. Interestingly there, our judge told both sides that his view was that he can see a witness better on video than in the courtroom. So he was actually very encouraging. Let's do this trial by video. But one of the parties wanted to do it in person, and we did. It's fun to be in person. So whether you need to be, I don't know. But there are. It's just I think I enjoyed the experience in the middle of the pandemic of being in the middle of a courtroom with the court and the other side and the witnesses, and I don't know that it was necessary, but I think it just makes life interesting.
Right, we all miss that, right? So how you see law firms these days, like in the corporate, we had to do the business plan for like 5 years, 10 years. It's it does not exist anymore. But how you see or foresee law firms in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think you're going to see a continued effort by the big successful firms like ours, the global firms, to grow and to try to grow in areas that are high value added to clients. The things that clients view as making a difference to them, that they're willing to pay the highest rates for. In those areas, you're going to see a lot of competition among the top firms to try to grow market share, grow into new areas or new markets. There is definitely an advantage to having more depth in important areas and having more expertise across the firm. And so I think successful firms will be looking to grow upon their existing footprints. Lawyers and business people are always innovating. So what's a complicated transaction today, 10 years from now will be something that's straightforward, and you may not need the same level of law firm to do that transaction in 10 years. But fortunately, there are always new changes that make things more complicated. There's political changes, there's economic changes, there's technological changes, there's legal changes that all create the issues that cause you to need great lawyers. So our approach is, I don't think we're great at predicting the future, but we need to be opportunistic and be on the lookout for what's next in terms of where the innovations are, and then be very aggressive in being leaders in those areas.
That's why people in other business are envious of legal business, because there's always things for lawyers to do, either in the good or bad economy, right? While we haven't actually finished looking at the consequence of the pandemic, this day we are focusing on sanctions. That's a good sample.
Exactly. There you go.
Okay. The next question I would ask you is that being the leader of a global firm with the U.S. base, what are challenges you see? The reason I ask this question is that U.S., UK always being the lead in the industry. So economy, technology disruption, AI, for example, and geopolitics, ESG, those are samples. So did I cover all challenges that you see, or are there more?
Yeah, I think I would say, the other challenge is the competition and the success of the industry has created a lot of pressure on our partners and our associates to work harder and harder and harder. And so, technology for lawyers comes with benefits and drawbacks. The benefits are you don't have to be in the office like you used to. If I was working on a case when I started out, I basically would have to spend the whole weekend at the office because that's how you communicated with people. So that I might not need to do that today. The problem is, young lawyers today, anytime they're awake, they have this phone next to them and they feel compelled to be checking it and to reacting real time. There's an expectation from clients and other lawyers that people are always on and can never get away. I think that's a challenge because we need to figure out a way to provide client service and meet client expectations on the one hand, but on the other hand, create a sustainable lifestyle for our lawyers, and that's a challenge. The biggest issue for big law is the economy. Our success is most correlated with how well the economy is doing, what's the level of transactions, capital markets offerings, financings. That drives things day to day. Yes, crisis and problems and restructurings are countercyclical, and Milbank has a very, very strong set of countercyclical practices. But we are very correlated with a good economy. And that's one of the reasons last year was such a strong year.
People in other business are concerned of AI replacing their jobs. What's your view for the legal business?
I think fortunately I'm old enough that it's not going to affect my tenure in a major way. We always have, as I said, I think you're always innovating and you're always moving up on the value added curve. So certainly on the litigation side, there are now technologies that allow you to do searches for documents, whereas there was a period where we had individual lawyers reading every document. We now have artificial intelligence algorithms that are making decisions about what's likely to be relevant. But I think we're not going to see replacement of lawyers over the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think we still have time where lawyers are going to be important. I can't really predict, the future. Technology moves so fast. But I think we have some amount of time before we get overtaken.
As the successful lawyer and the leader of the firm, who has seen the past, what you see or what you think that lawyers 10 years from now would require to having skills or require some attributes that might be different from the past?
So I actually don't think we're going to see that much that changes. But the advice that I give to young lawyers about what you need to succeed are, one, at a firm like ours, which is a firm about business, you need to have an interest and a willingness to learn about business issues, a willingness to understand accounting, finance, what makes a business successful, because clients want people who are interested and understand their issues, not just people who only know about case law. The other thing that I think is important and will continue to be important, because a huge amount of our business is cross-border. So a knowledge of languages and a willingness and an interest in understanding other cultures and legal regimes. So one of the things that makes us successful is being able to understand US law, but also being able to translate it to our clients and reconcile it with the laws of other regimes. And we're seeing examples of that now as we all try to sort through very thorny issues arising out of the sanctions regimes that have been imposed. So language, love of kind of understanding other cultures, which, for lawyers who are interested in that, it's a very, very fun part of the job.
So should I say that is your recommendations and tips for lawyers for the next decade, which is in fact the same with the lawyers in the past, right?
Yeah, I would say the other tip that I give to young lawyers is, think of yourself as, the partners have to go out and look for business. And I always say to young lawyers, your job is to look for business too, inside the firm. And you should always be viewing yourself as running the law firm of you and trying to look for opportunities to get more experience, do more, say, I could do that as well, and to grow your experience. Because what makes you useful on the next engagement is the experience you got on this engagement. And it's like building blocks, and the more building blocks you get, the more opportunities you get.
But let me ask a question on spot a little bit, because I know you have experience working with in-house and many general counsels as well. Any tips for in-house so that my colleagues and friends can hear?
Well, I know, I do work a lot with in-house lawyers, but I sometimes, I don't really know what it's like to be in-house.
Or maybe expectation and ideal in-house.
Yeah. I think some of the expectations would be the same, and I would encourage in-house lawyers to, and it depends the extent they have the time to do it, but to get engaged as possible in the issues that they're dealing with, because again, the experience that they gain on a particular transaction or litigation makes them so much more valuable to their own employer, or potentially for another position. And outside counsel can be great allies over the course of one's career. So, I think it's a very synergistic relationship where a good partnership between inside counsel and outside lawyers can be mutually beneficial to their firms and to them, to one another individually.
Okay. I myself had a chance to attend the Milbank at Harvard Corporate Counsel program, which I really enjoyed. In fact, it's the real program after my law school terms. Can you tell us a little bit about the coordination between law firms and law schools in building that program, and how you see its benefits to actually your partners and associates as well as like clients?
So we established Milbank and Harvard, I don't know, close to 10 years ago, and it's a pretty unique program. And Harvard Law School was terrific in developing the program with us. Just to sketch out how it works, our lawyers in each of their, I think, third, fifth, and seventh years or thereabouts, go up to Harvard for a 1-week session where they take classes with law school professors, business school professors, and Milbank partners. And Harvard works with us to come up with a curriculum, and we teach things like finance, accounting at a high level, business skills like how to manage people, how to give feedback, and some legal issues. And it is, I think people find going back to school for 1 week, when it's a novelty at Harvard with some of the best professors, surrounded by their peers, it's a terrific program, and one that we get rave reviews on. The program that you attended was something that we basically said, when we saw how great it was for our associates, we said this would be a great opportunity to introduce some of our best client relationships to an opportunity to have this same experience, and introduce them at the same time by having some of our newer partners also attend the program. And again, rave reviews with an international group of really high-level clients. So Harvard has been a great partner to us in this program. They have brought the same focus and attention to developing our curriculum that they do to bringing the study of law generally to their students. And it's been a very, very successful partnership for us.
Yeah, I do agree that it's such a unique program, and one of the best programs that I ever attend. The next topic or question I would like to ask, because these days people talk about it a lot, is the ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. The trends in ESG, especially some issues like human rights, diversity, and maybe things like pro bono as a part of it. Can you share on how you see like law firms involvement in ESG and to adopt those into a part of the law firm's activities.
So I think ESG is something that's complicated because it means different things to different people. And you know, one thing that we're seeing now is the law of ESG is becoming politicized in the United States. There are some states that are more conservative. The governance are more conservative in the United States that are attacking companies that have really focused and gone out publicly and saying that they're into ESG. And then on the other hand, I expect there's going to be some push on the federal government to test the assertions about ESG that are being made. And the problem is nobody really knows exactly what it means. And different people have different weighting systems for what it means to be good on ESG. So you have a very subjective set of standards that can mean different things to different people and can be politicized. So I think it's an area that we still have a lot of work to do as a society, and you know, I fear the confusion is going to lead to some interesting issues for lawyers.
Thanks very much for the honest views and comments. My next question for you is from the other side. I would say from the demand side. What changes you think law schools need to do?
So I'm not one to spend a lot of time complaining about law schools. I think the job of a law school is to teach young people how to think about legal issues, how to engage in legal reasoning, how to understand cases and read cases. I'm not looking for a law school to teach people how to be Milbank lawyers. We do that, particularly on the transactional side. That's not the role of a law school. You know, I guess my advice to young lawyers going into a law firm is, you know, again, it's consistent with be interested in business issues and be willing to learn about them. I think it's a wasted opportunity if you take a set of classes that don't include classes about business, things like securities, corporation, bankruptcy. Having a grounding in those subjects will make a difference when you get a project that involves them, rather than having to learn them from scratch. So, you know, but I think that's really, the burden there is on the individual law student, not on the law school, because you know, it's not for everybody. But if you're going to a big firm, I think you want to be prepared.
People talk a lot about the need for one to know other areas. How you see that for like law schools and lawyers?
What do you mean by other areas?
Okay, so for example, with the pandemic, people would think that if medical school students are also trained, things that people in like engineering schools do. So in fact, they can work together and create new equipment, new design. So
Right.
for law schools and for lawyers, it would probably be a better one if they also get to learn some principles, for example, on like finance, accounting, and
Right.
business, and,
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah,
that.
so I definitely think that's the case. You know, our education system in the US is different than in London or the UK, where people have an undergraduate training that's not law. So they come to law school with a grounding in something else. I think that's a good thing. But you know, some of our best people have between college and law school done something else, whether it's accounting or worked in a business, and they bring really useful background and life skills that they bring to law school and then to the firm. So, you know, I think that depending on what you do can be a very good investment and something that sets you apart.
Okay. We come to the end. Would love to hear your final words for our topic, law schools, law firms, and lawyers for the next decade.
Yeah, so look, I think we have been through a very, very successful period for law firms. You know, the history of economies and law firms is that they're cyclical, that times are not always so bullish. You know, I think law firms are going to need to take a long-term view of things, and law schools are going to need to take a long-term view of things as well. And it's not all going to be ups. We may have ups for a bunch more, but there'll be ups and downs. What I think distinguishes a great lawyer from a good lawyer is the ability to pivot and learn new things and apply old experience to new problems and not view themselves just as in a box of only doing a particular thing. And I think that's also true of the great law firms, being willing and able to innovate and deal with the next set of challenges as opposed to just the challenges that they've already solved. That's what makes being a lawyer interesting. And it's also what makes law firms successful. And I'm looking for the law schools around the world to create people who have the ability to think like that, to deal with new problems, to deal with new challenges. And if, you know, if we can get those types of people and we can apply that type of approach, I think we'll continue to be very successful.
That's such a great conclusion, and I do believe that it will always be an up-to-date gray hairs advice. So we come to the end. Many thanks, Scott.
ก็รายการเราในเอพิโซด 49/1 นะคะเดินทางมาถึงตอนท้ายของรายการแล้วค่ะก็คิดว่าท่านผู้ชมนะคะคงจะได้ข้อคิดดีๆโดยเฉพาะท่านที่เป็น lawyers นะคะมีหลายประโยคหลายคำพูดนะคะของคุณสกอตต์Edelman ที่น่าสนใจมากๆนะคะแล้วก็อาจจะให้ข้อคิดดีๆนะคะในการที่พวกเราจะนำมาคิดว่าเราจะสามารถเป็น great lawyer มากกว่าที่เป็น good lawyer ได้ยังไงนอกจากนั้นจะมีธุรกิจนะคะที่ sustainable คือมีความยั่งยืนไม่ว่าจะเป็น law firm หรือ law school ได้อย่างไรนะคะก็ต้องขอบคุณนะคะผู้สนับสนุนนะคะประกอบด้วย ตลาดหลักทรัพย์แห่งประเทศไทยสมาคมบริษัทจดทะเบียนขอบคุณผู้ถอดความนะคะคุณปันรวีอุยานันท์แล้วก็แน่นอนขอบคุณท่านผู้ชมนะคะอีพิโซดหน้า 49/2 พลาดไม่ได้เช่นเดียวกันเราจะพบกับ Professor Scott A. Westfahl นะคะจาก Harvard Executive Education ซึ่งก็คงจะมีเรื่องมาเล่าให้เราฟังแล้วก็แน่นอนว่าจะมีข้อคิดดีๆให้กับพวกเราซึ่งประเทศไทยเองก็เดินทางมาถึงจุดที่เราต้องมาทบทวนหลายอย่างนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นก็มาลองฟังโมเดลที่เขาเดินหน้าไปพอสมควรวันนี้ลาไปก่อนค่ะสวัสดีนะคะ